Good day, everyone. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to make a video and check out something that we need for the jet ski project. So we've always wanted a bead blaster or a sandblaster or a media blaster or a blast cabinet, a lot of different names. This is actually a Harbor Freight blast cabinet, and we got that, and I also got a bunch of glass beads here. So what we're going to do is a little bit of a review. This is 25 pounds of 80 grit glass beads, Harbor Freight blast cabinet, abrasive blast cabinet. And what we can do with this, a lot. I could take parts like this here, and we could blast the paint right off. You see, we talked about this head earlier, and how we did that with a wire wheel by hand, and it still doesn't look as perfect as it could. So you take something like this, which they call a sandblaster or a glass blaster, and it uses little glass beads at a high pressure to just strip off paint and everything. So we'll set this up, take it apart, see what this thing does. It's really a good tool to have in our garage. We're going to use this a lot with the jet skis. So this thing is a little bit big, or maybe it's not as big in the box, but we're going to put it here on the edge of the bench here, and that'll be our place where we use like this here. We're going to strip this off in the video for a test and see what it'll look like after, and you'll see it in the future. But Harbor Freight, you can't go wrong. This stuff is reasonably priced. There's usually a Harbor Freight near you, or you can order online like I did myself, and let's see what happens. Okay, so taking it out of the box, we're going to see what it comes with, but it seems that in my situation with this bench here, it might be a little high, so we might have to build a little stand or something over here, or maybe a rolling cart, so that we can move it around. But you can see here the length of this thing is about 2.5 feet, and the height is about, I'd say, 3 feet. Stand next to that, Chris. So that's about how high it is. He's about 6 foot. It's about almost 3 feet. Not too big. They do have another model that's actually a workstation with legs and everything on it. We decided to get this one, and we're going to see what's in it. Okay, so before we put it together, the size and the inside of this cabinet is quite impressive. I didn't think with the picture it'd be that big. A lot of room in there. You can do intake manifolds for cars. You can do turbo manifolds, cylinder heads. You can do a lot in here. The gloves that go through are 2 feet, 24 inches long. And for example, Chris, grab that cylinder head here. Look, if we do this little cylinder head here, look how small this thing is. Or how big the cabinet is, or how small the cylinder head looks in there. We can actually fit quite a bit of stuff in there. I might actually be able to sandblast this entire case. If I took this engine apart, I could put this whole engine in there and sandblast it if I wanted to. So it's got a good size. The glove holes here, huge. So let's get it together so you can see it in action. So the window here on top is, quite large. The only issue I have here is that because we have the bench so high, you can see Chris standing here, it would be a little difficult to look in there, so we're going to have to get that thing a little lower. It's great if you have a shop with a shorter bench, but in our situation we don't. How does the grip feel with those gloves, Chris? So you can actually grab small parts with that?
Oh
yeah. Yeah, they're not like, you could actually grab little screws and stuff with that if you really wanted to. They're not like rubber insulating gauntlets that FPL uses that you can't even grab a screwdriver. They're really agile gloves. In the little box here, parts that what do we got here, Chris? Looks like we have a tube, or the air tube, siphon tube.
We have the gun.
So we have a gun. I see we have little nozzles there, different sizes.
Yeah.
Probably for, see, so you got a little fine stream, if you really want to get into small, little tight cracks, or if you want to blast a large surface area.
Yeah, the smallest one's on there.
Okay, so different nozzles with the gun here, and the air compressor hooks up to this gun.
Hose clamps for the tube.
Hose clamps.
Bolts for the dust vent.
So that's that probably gets this here. Goes on like that. You screw that on, and then I guess the cap goes on. We'll screw that on. So here's what happens when you hook up your. Basically, this is propelling the media that you're blasting, or the sand or glass. You put your air compressor into here, and it's like a Venturi effect. The high pressure air goes through the nozzle, comes out, and as it's exiting, it's sucking the sand or glass up into the sprayer. So this is going to sit in the bottom and suck up the sand. And then what happens is you have a screen grate here, and the grate is going to be where you lay your parts, where it catches big debris. That's going to go in like this. Now, when you dump your glass beads in, they're going to go in the bottom. You can see there's like a little funnel or catch in the bottom. Your glass beads are going to fill up in the bottom. Your air hose for your air gun is going to come in through this little grommet in the back. Connects to the air hose, and then your siphon tube is going to drop in here. So it's like an ecosystem. The air is coming in, okay, and it's sucking the glass beads out of the bottom. You blast your part, falls through the grate, comes back up through the gun, falls through the grate. It's like a big ecosystem. You can lay your parts here. Any big metal or particles that would sit on this grate here would keep those from going into the glass. But eventually, you're going to contaminate, if you're blasting greasy parts, you're going to contaminate your glass. So what you want to have is as clean of a possible part so that you're not throwing grease in there, but the beads aren't that expensive. Depending on the grit and the quality and the material, 10, 12, 15 bucks for a 25-pound box, and that will last you some time depending on how dirty the parts are that you're bead blasting. Remove the plastic from the inside of the view window so you get a nice clean view. Oh yeah. That way you can see what you're doing. Alright, I got the siphon tube down here in the bottom. We're going to put the glass in. We're going to set the compressor to 90 to 100 psi. Got a Husky compressor here. I wonder if Harbor Freight has a quieter compressor. This thing is super loud. On the bottom you have a little drain here so that you can drain all your beads out when you need to replace them. So you dump I think it says dump half of the amount of beads in this thing so you don't want it to clog. So that'd be roughly like 12 pounds, I guess. What you got? That looks about good, right? And that's glass, so you want to make sure you don't wipe your eye after you touch it with your bare hands.
I would try it. We'll see what kind of flow rate.
Yeah, we'll start with that. You don't want this thing piled up to the very top.
Yeah.
Chris wants to use the kid step so he can get a little bit of height. So that might be better than putting the Sandblaster lower. Just get a little step like this. How's that look, Chris?
That's good right there.
So this is how you should be ready right here, okay? Got your air hose in here. We got the air gun in with the siphon tube in the glass. Everything is ready. So what we're going to do first is Chris is going to demonstrate this for us. We're going to do a couple things. We're going to test run on a cylinder head, and then we're going to try to test run on an actual saltwater corroded cylinder. Oh yeah, look at it, strip that. Wow, look at that. Alright, we're going to try the fine nozzle on the heavily painted surface and see if it rips that off.
Okay.
Yep.
Taking it right
So
off.
we'll take the paint off, but I would suggest something that's that heavily painted, try to strip some of that paint off because you're just putting that paint in your beads. But it will take the paint right off. We're going to try really heavily salt corroded rusted aluminum right here. Oh, it comes right off. See the other corner. Yeah, it blows that sand right, that rust right off. Cool. Yeah, see, just like 10 seconds worth. I mean, it's pitted pretty bad from being corroded. But you can see the difference with 10 seconds worth. It really did, it knocked it out. I mean, you can get in there with a different method, with a wire brush or something, but you won't get it all. And, you know, it actually strips that right off. On the cylinder head, that's the cylinder. On the cylinder head, it did take the paint off. I mean, you'd probably spend a lot of time doing that, unless you had it raw like this, or like this. See, he already wire wheeled that. So using something like that on hard paint, you know, but that really, look at it.
Look at that, man.
I mean, yeah, this is pitted right here, but it stripped it off. I mean, if you sat there for 20 minutes or so, you'd have that thing looking like new. So the machine overall does the job. The one thing I would recommend, so you see this right here, that's a port for an additional optional vacuum dust grabber. And I would really consider that, which we might, because watch what happens when I open this. I mean, this stuff goes, you don't want to breathe this in, all right? Well, look, see this? All that like smoke, what? Yeah, see? Well, look at the smoke coming out of that. So that's normal by nature of a Sandblaster. But what you want to know is they have an external additional accessory for sold separately for a vacuum dust grabber, and that'll basically create a vacuum to suck the dust up. Overall, though, this is going to come in a lot, really handy for the Sandblaster. Harbor Freight has it. You can check out online, or yeah, don't breathe that in, Chris. They have it online. They have it in stores, and Harbor Freight's got parking lot sales where they have stuff like this on sale. If you go on a certain weekend or whatever, they'll have this stuff out, discounted in the parking lot. Thanks for watching. Until next time, when we get these parts cleaned up, and possibly if I don't sell this bottom end here, this good bottom end, we'll sandblast these parts, get them all painted up, maybe sell that. Thanks for watching, guys.